In the fight for truth, sometimes we need to pull back and take a look at the big picture, the really big picture. How well is humanity doing in this fight? What direction are we going in? When we take that look, we realize it's kind of scary. Not just because lies are already now flying around the world so quickly, but also because AI is very quickly becoming more and more realistic, creating fake everything. And propagandists are happy to use any and all tools to fool people in order to amass power. That's a fundamental, awful part of the human condition. This era is like a liar's dream. But as you may know, I'm all about solutions. What if there is a place, a physical place, that holds onto proof of what's real? A place that helps people learn the two ingredients of truth, facts plus context. It turns out such a place already exists. I hadn't realized this or thought about it until I was invited to one, and I'm going to take you there today. It has 11 floors. It takes up about 500,000 square feet. And it has a huge section that people cannot go into because they couldn't breathe. It has almost no oxygen, but it has robots getting what you need. This place shows what could be built anywhere in a society that values truth. In fact, one of the people you'll hear from today is a global leader in making that happen. What she and others are working on now gives me reason for hope, and will probably do the same for you. It's also especially impressive because of something big that they're working on right now, sifting fact from fiction about a crucial story and a very difficult one to grapple with. You'll hear why documenting truth also means tackling big ethical questions. And you'll hear from Mamie Till, a woman whose brave decision went a long way in advancing the U.S. civil rights movement. All that and more coming up today on They Stand Corrected. Hello and welcome. So great to have you here. Today's episode is a bit different, and I'm so psyched to take you on this journey and share this with you. Oh, for those of you who are new, hi, I'm Josh Lebs. This is my podcast, They Stand Corrected, which fact checks the news. I used to be in the news. I spent 10 years on NPR and then 10 years on CNN. I was on air and online. I was doing all this fact checking, but I was also always kind of a rebel, and I could not stand how those news agencies and other news agencies put out all these reports that are not fact-checked, and they needed to be fact-checked. Now, most weeks we're looking at, among other things, the latest news, but sometimes we need to pull out of the immediate moment and take a look at the big picture. I have been looking into what's going on with these AI tools. In several cases, these tools are learning what they are told are facts from news agencies, but those news agencies lie. Some of them, if not all the major ones, include Al Jazeera as a source of alleged truth. If you've heard this show, you might know I did an entire episode about this. Al Jazeera is the Qatari government's state-owned propaganda giant. That's a fact. That's what it is. Big U.S. news agencies lie too. I talk about the problems with the New York Times, the Washington Post, Associated Press, the big TV networks. There are systemic problems in this industry. And AI tools are ingesting their materials. So when people ask these tools questions, the information they are then given is sometimes false, having come from those news outlets. Meanwhile, AI, as you probably know, is also getting more and more realistic. Here's something that happened with me recently I wanted to share with you. So I was working on the episode about the One Big Beautiful Bill, which became the One Big Beautiful Act. I have used this AI tool, Gemini, from Google, which does some great stuff in terms of pulling up links for me that I can then go check. So Gemini did this research, and then when it finished the research project, it offered me this button to click for audio. I was expecting some kind of, audio summary, but instead I got
You
this.
listen to those policy debates, right? And you hear these absolutely massive numbers thrown around, and you just wonder, okay, but can I actually trust those figures? How do we really know how reliable they are?
Yeah, it's a huge question. I mean, these numbers really do drive policy decisions. They shape how
It
we
sounds
all
like a conversation
understand what's
between two
happening with the
people
economy.
that was generated immediately. Now, I will tell you this, when I played the sound of it for my kids, they immediately, as soon as they heard it, said it was so AI. They said it was soulless. So that made me feel better that, they've got their antenna up. But AI tools are getting more and more realistic. And it is getting to the point in which no one will know what's real or fake based on just what they hear or what they see online. And that stuff's scary. As I record this, the Elon Musk one, Grok, has been spitting out Nazi content. These AI tools are moving us even further away from truth. But then came this good news that I was not expecting. This was when I was preparing to travel to Israel. A woman at the National Library of Israel wrote me that I should come by to see what they are working on. She told me about their project to document the reality of the October 7th, 2023 massacres by Hamas and by other Gazans who came in. That was when I realized how important this is. The lies about October 7th began on October 7th. These terrorists were documenting things themselves. They took videos of their slaughter. They took pictures. They were proud of these murders, the mass rapes, the taking home body parts as souvenirs, the unimaginable things they were doing to babies. I will be telling you more about this in the future because I spent time at sites that were attacked that day. But the point is, people carrying this out were proud of it. And yet, that same day, Palestinian leaders were saying, no, none of this is happening. And activists in the United States and around the world were saying, oh, it's all lies. It's all made up by Israel. It's a false flag operation. And people in the news were playing into that, saying, we don't know what's real. The lies and the efforts to confuse you were already underway. And it worked. To this day, people around the world don't know what's real. And people who call themselves supporters of Gazans are denying the reality of what these Gazan terrorists themselves were saying they were doing. The lies spread, and AI has helped as fake materials have been created. So we got to Israel. The first day we were in Jerusalem, and while the group that I was with went off and did something else, they dropped me off in the center of the city, right near what's called the Knesset. That's the parliament. And I walked up a little bit of a hill to this gorgeous building, and I'm going to put pictures and videos in the newsletter so that you can check it out. You might know Jerusalem is filled with buildings that use the look of Jerusalem stone, which is a kind of limestone. That's why in aerial photos, you often see a field of what looks like white buildings. It's a stunningly beautiful city. Anyway, this building, the National Library, has a curved stone roof. It also has this environmental design. There's a group of journalists who have this website, Israel 21C. They explain that this building has solar panels and low energy, low maintenance lighting and a mechanism for storing thermal energy that significantly lowers the energy required to cool the building. The original library was created in 1892. This new building just opened less than 2 years ago. It was actually set to have its big opening in October of 2023. It was going to be a big event with people flying in from all over the world. But the October 7th attacks prevented that big event from happening. Nevertheless, this amazing location, which has now been written up in these architectural websites and stuff, did go ahead and open shortly after those attacks.
If you can get to our front door, you're welcome in.
That's Ahava Cohen, head of cataloging, who met me at the door.
And the digital collection is open to anyone, anywhere in the world. It doesn't block Israel.
The library, of course, has employees of different religions and backgrounds. Some of them work on a huge collection of Arabic material.
It's an ongoing collection. It's one of our core collections, Islam in the Middle East. And we have a whole department that all they deal with are publications written in Arabic script.
This is actually especially important for people who want to learn about and research texts that are even centuries old. Since there are no Islamic democracies and open access to information is and should be a hallmark of democracy, this collection is so important. It gets visitors online all over the world. Anyway, after walking through part of the building in which we could only whisper, we then met up in a place where we could talk with two other leaders at this library about the efforts to document the truth of what happened that day.
On October 7th, it was both a Sabbath and a holiday, and people sort of started to hear things, but didn't really hear things until after Shabbat was over.
That's Rachel Nyman, head of media for the library. She explained that it took more time than it usually would for lots of people in Israel to learn about the evil that was unfolding. And she said the next day was like a blur. But then on October 9th, the library's head of collections, Raquel Euclid, was saying what they needed to do.
She said, we have to start documenting this. This stuff is almost wholly digital. It's going to go away if we don't start to collect it right away.
So what is the stuff that you kept? The whole world was talking about it. Is it what people were saying about it? Is the original hellish videos that the attackers put out?
Yes. And the Hamas videos from GoPro cameras, people who got murdered with just filming themselves during the attack.
This is Maya Gansvi, manager of this project called Bearing Witness.
People who survived. WhatsApp messages, web archiving, a very large scale, photographs, oral history, testimonies, everything.
Does this mean that you all had to actually sit there and watch this stuff?
Yes. The first 3 weeks or months, we did watch some of the stuff, but it's unbearable.
Unbearable, yeah. You and I can only imagine what it might be like to face a massive mountain of videos and images and documentation of that day. So what she explained is that they're using AI to provide descriptions of what's in the video, but not to tell them what's real and fake.
We are documenting the channel which we received the material.
So you keep a record that shows exactly how you got it?
Yes. We are extracting metadata from the file itself. Our task is to put all the materials in one database. This is the goal of the project, to create a historical record of all the materials from October 7 itself, about October 7, like testimonies, and from the war time in Israel and Jewish diaspora communities, like what happening on the campuses in the US.
Yup. And that is part of the reality that people in Israel face as well, as they were experiencing the most horrific terrorist attack of modern times. People around the world, including people on U.S. college campuses, were celebrating the fact that that was happening to them. Anyway, they are looking at the provenance of the materials they collect, seeing whether things were changed, figuring out the original dates things were uploaded or published, and who was behind them, and how they were uploaded, all of that. And this is being done for so much material. The library is serving as basically a clearinghouse for truth on this.
There's about 300 different documentation projects. There's big ones, there's little ones. There's people who started running out into the field on the day and had set up a website or maybe just an Instagram page or something. And the library sort of serves as an umbrella for all of these documentation efforts, catalogs them and preserves them so that researchers in 100 years, using whatever technology we're going to be using then, biochips or vegetable chips, will be able to access and do the research properly.
But that introduces a bunch of questions and ethical challenges about some of the authentic material from the day that shows what happened to individuals, people who may no longer be alive to weigh in on who can see what happened to them. Plus, questions about what to do with the propaganda, the lies, which are also being archived in a certain way. All of this applies to an effort to document the truth about anything, particularly the worst things that humans do. Coming up, how this group is tackling these key questions. And we'll hear from civil rights figure Mamie Till. Here are some of the latest headlines in the newsletter that comes along with this show. A man from Gaza calling out the pro-terror media. Memetic warfare is destroying us. Christopher Lloyd in a movie called Guns and Moses. Black Trump voters and New York Times plenty math. And nurses warn people will suffer and die due to the beautiful bill. This newsletter is designed to bring you truths that you're not getting in the mainstream media. I include links to information that I share with you on this show because I don't expect you to take my word for anything. And subscribers are very often the ones who bring me the ideas for what to cover on this show. Anyone can get this newsletter. You can find a link in the show notes or at my website, joshlebs.com, JOSHLEVS.com. The newsletter comes from a platform called Substack. If you're on Substack, just look up They Stand Corrected. It's free. And the people who do the most to support this show are the paid subscribers to the newsletter. So to honor them, I have additional exclusive content. They're the ones who can message me on the platform and contribute their comments. I provide money-saving content as well. I talk my paid subscribers through a way to access just about any major news media for free, legally. In this era, when big mainstream media are failing so badly, it takes an independent effort to be fighting for truth. I can tell you, I am much more free to be able to say things that are true now than I ever was in my 20 years at NPR and CNN, when big bureaucracies and generally big corporations are limiting what people can say. It blocks your path to truth. This show is all about giving you the truth. And that includes your opportunity to tell me when there are things I miss or get wrong. So subscribe to the newsletter. Consider also becoming a paid subscriber for all that additional content, and I will see you there. Thanks. When your task is to document everything about a horror, you face tricky questions about what to do with documentation of what happened to people, in this case, in these massacres and mass rapes, and what happened to babies, all of it. At the National Library of Israel, a team is working to figure this out.
Even though some of the materials like legally can be given access to, if you see a body in the picture, you can't really at the moment give access to that. There are families, this is a time of trauma. So there are a lot of ethical issues that we need to consider.
Right. Like if some of these images show bodies, show children, and then there are surviving members of the family who do or don't want that showing. Or if the whole family died, then who even makes that choice? The closest living relative?
That's why you put together this consortium.
They've created this consortium of people who have expertise with these kinds of questions. Academics, people from organizations. They're working to come up with rules and best practices. They meet regularly to develop this code. And they know that these decisions will change over time.
You can even look back at previous war, which we had a lot. Unfortunately, maybe you can see a similar photograph of bodies, but it's in black and white. It's around 48. But something we can deal with it more.
More emotional distance, let's say.
It's a collective trauma as well as the personal trauma. The National Library has to be very careful in one way, but on the other side, it is very committed to give access to those materials, to make sure that they are preserved, and now or in the future, somebody can know what happened from the material.
This got me thinking about Mamie Till Mobley, mother of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy who was lynched in Mississippi in 1955. Lynchings were rampant. It's impossible to know just how many there were. There's this one study from Tuskegee University that says over an 80-year period, starting in the late 1880s, there were more than 4,700 lynchings. Most, but not all, victims were Black. Mamie Till Mobley did something heroic when she decided to have an open casket so that the world would have to see in the media the reality of what was done to her child. Here she is speaking about that decision almost 50 years later on ABC.
When Mr. Rayner asked me, he said, "Mrs. Mobley, that's the undertaker, do you want me to retouch the body?" I said, "No, Mr. Rayner, let the people see what I have seen. I want the world to see what is going on in Mississippi, in this great old United States of America."
Her act did force people to confront reality in a way that many had not, and it is widely seen as a turning point in the civil rights movement. And it was her decision to make. So, anytime any library tries to do what the National Library of Israel is doing now, documenting evil, they will have to reckon with these kinds of questions. And at this library in Jerusalem, it's not just the Bearing Witness project that they're putting together. There's more.
The other two collections we have about October 7th and the war are the books that were published and the periodicals that came out, magazines, reports, things like that, which go through our regular process. Anything that's published in Israel by law has to be deposited in the library, and we look at trends. Those are available right away.
Wait, any paper, magazine, anything gets deposited in the library?
Anything that you have published in more than 50 copies in print or digital file that you're making accessible to the public for free or that they have to pay for.
In this process, cataloging books and materials, keeping records, they include publications from Hamas.
That we actually went out and looked for. One of the things that we do is, because we know there are publicly freely available books on the internet, the cataloging section goes out and looks for these full-text books and magazines that fit our core collections. We sent members of our Arabic cataloging department to go look in the Hamas websites and Hamas supporting websites and downloaded all the PDFs that they could find.
That's part of what's tricky, though, about something like this, too, isn't it? Because even if something is false or propaganda, you still have to make it available.
Right.
So then someone could find it later on, or maybe they'll choose to believe that.
Library systems, cataloging systems, have ways to describe material as being propaganda, as being controversial literature, as being non-authenticated. So we make sure to do that.
So, like, someone looks at it, they'll see that.
Exactly.
I told her I hadn't thought about how libraries organize things since I was little, and we had to learn about the Dewey Decimal System. Anyway, this library is in a strong position to help fight back against AI lies. Here's why.
One of our advantages is because the library policy is to make our cataloging records freely available, we could take all of our cataloging records and upload it to an AI system for it to process and then just keep on disseminating. And that's our plan. We've let our catalog be crawled, any system that would like to crawl it.
Because if you look at all the Holocaust denial, it's like I can picture 5-10 years from now when people aren't using Google search anymore, they're just asking their phone, what was 10/7? Well, some people say that on that day this thing happened, but other people say it didn't happen. And then you just move on with your day. So if you all are feeding AI, then you're fighting back from within.
Right, because our threshold is if we aren't at least 95% certain that our information is authentic, we will not record it. Most libraries have a slightly lower threshold. In the library world, it tends to be around 90 to 93%. But because we know we're dealing with material that others might try to debunk, we hold ourselves to a higher standard.
This is where we get into something I mentioned earlier. This woman you're hearing now, Ahava Cohen, she's not just a leader at this library. She represents Europe on something called the RDA Steering Committee. That is a small group of people who set guidelines and instructions for creating the metadata for library and cultural heritage sites around the world. And she is the chair of the AI in Cataloging Working Group. Basically, what all that means, she is a worldwide leader in determining how libraries can serve as trustworthy sources of truth as we enter this AI era. Listen to something she does and get everyone you know in the media to hear this so they can finally understand fact-checking. Here, Ahava tells me about the library's collection of the names of the fallen from October 7th.
There we rely on open source intelligence and material we got from the families, and every piece of metadata, the name, the spelling of a name, the date of birth, what the person's occupation was, everything has the source listed. So if I say that someone was born on January 26th and you say, no, I have a source that says January 27th, I can tell you why I said January 26th.
I wish the media did that.
And I found the two soldiers named Or Mizrahi, who were both killed on the 7th of October. Both their mothers' names are Michal, but they have different fathers' names, and one was born in Ramat Gan and one was born in Petach Tikva. And all of that information that I just gave you, we have the source for each piece of that information.
Hello. This is how it's done, media. It's wild how things come full circle. We used to turn to libraries for information. Then everything went digital and cyber and virtual. Now we need libraries in a whole new way to be trustworthy sources of information. This can be done. This group of people, they're doing it. Coming up, something I mentioned earlier, robots and oxygen deprivation. It's so cool.
La 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 in the library, where the one things want to be. Pages turn like autumn leaves. Let your mind sail on the breeze.
Which of these three pieces of music do you find most inspirational? Here's choice A. Here's B. And not to influence your selection, but I think my personal favorite, C. Here's how you vote. Go into whatever app you're using to listen to this podcast, and be sure to click the subscribe button and rate the show. Give it 5 stars. And if it has a review section, then review it. That is the way that you show these platforms that they should be recommending this show to other people. If you use Spotify, you'll see how to give it 5 stars. And if you use Apple, you can do 5 stars and type in a review. So while I play you this music, just pull up that section of the app and type in something awesome about this show so people know. Okay, ready? Go. Hopefully most of you are fiddling with your phones now. Obviously, if you're driving, have somebody else in the car do it. Or decide that before you get out of the car, after you park, you'll take care of it then. Here's a few more seconds for those of you to do what you're doing. To everyone who has given the show a great review, thank you so much. Here's what you do. Send a note to this show and let me know which of these pieces of music was your favorite. A, B, or C. I'll use that in a future episode. After all, the whole point of inspirational music is to inspire you to go do something awesome, right? Well, hopefully you just did. For a moment there, you have been a hero to this show. Thank you. The building I've been telling you about has 11 floors, 5 of which are underground. So many precautions have been taken to protect the collections, the millions of books and materials. One of them is that in the stacks, oxygen is kept at low levels, like lower than we need to breathe for any length of time. Blocking out oxygen prevents fire. So, how do you get stuff from the stacks? Robots do that for you. These robots are like cranes. When you need something, they know where to go and what to get, and they deliver it to you at a place in the library where people can go. There's a good video about this, which you'll find in the newsletter. There are also, of course, interactive experiences, including a screen that's 65 feet wide. A lot to see there. There's also something else this place did that I wanted to tell you about. It's something any library could do, and it's a really beautiful idea. They set up an exhibit representing all of the people taken on October 7th who are still missing or being held captive. That's the best way for me to put it because it's generally unclear who's still alive and who was killed. At this exhibit, along with names and photos, they chose a book to represent each person based on information they have about what the person likes or is interested in or what the family says. Like, for example, for Bipin Joshi, one of the people from Thailand who was taken by Hamas, he's into citrus trees, so there's a book about that. For another hostage, there's a book about guitar music. Anyway, the record for each book shows that it was part of this exhibit. So, in the future, when anyone checks out that book, which has nothing to do with this topic specifically, they will be able to see that it was a part of this exhibit. And who knows, maybe they'll feel some kind of connection with this person. It's a way of humanizing them, showing their individuality. I want to hear what you think about all of this. There are 2 great ways to reach me. The best is through the newsletter. Paid subscribers can reach me there. And anyone can find a form at my website. It's a really cool form, and you'll see why it stymies the haters and spammers out there, because it's designed in a way that they can't clog it up. It's great. Anyway, you'll find that at joshlevs.com. Check out the show notes for links to all of this. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. And as always, thank you so much for listening. I will see you next week.
Wait, before you go, I'm recording this part in an area where I have to stay quiet. But please share this episode with any librarian you know, and anyone who knows a librarian. Actually, send it to everyone. Help this show hit critical mass so the media has to face the truth. Thank you.